Hey guys, it's DJRND. I'm going to talk about the difference between ENTJs and INTJs. I tried this video a couple times already, but I kept mixing up I kept calling ENTJs INTJs, and I kept calling INTJs ENTJs. So every time I say the word extrovert, I mean ENTJ. Every time I say the word introvert, I mean INTJ. So anyway, what's the difference? Well, extroverts typically... The extroverts have they have an energy about them. They have enthusiasm that they can charge up other people with their enthusiasm. That's typically a trait of all extroverts. If they really want to, they can charge people up with their enthusiasm. The introverts, the INTJs, they don't really. They don't. I've never met an introvert that can charge people up the way an extrovert can. Okay, I've yet to meet one of these introverts that can one of these introverts that can charge me up in this way. So it's just not what they're known for. I mean, when's the last time an INTJ gave you a motivating speech? I mean, to me, that has never happened in my life. But moving on. Another big difference between the extroverts and the introverts is that the extroverts are not as in touch with themselves, while the introverts are very much in touch with themselves, perhaps too much. The INTJs actually need to learn how to detach from themselves sometimes. They need to go out and be more objective than they actually are. While the ENTJs need to, while the extroverts need to learn to be more in touch with themselves. They're self-forgetting in a way. They typically, ENTJs have extroverted thinking as their first function, introverted intuition as their second function, extroverted sensing as their third function, and introverted feeling as their fourth. So what's going to happen is that when an extrovert is in their extroverted mode, they're going to be using their extroverted functions. So extroverted sensing and extroverted thinking are the two extroverted functions in ENTJs. So they're actually going to look kind of like ESTPs in this way. They're going to look very similar to ESTPs because of the extroverted sensing and the... there's some differences that I won't get into. Extroverts, the extroverts actually have a difficulty formulating value judgments. They actually have a difficulty forming these value judgments where they, I have an ENTJ friend. I'll ask him, so how do you feel about so-and-so? He'll be like, well, here's the thing. And anytime you say someone say, well, here's the thing, it means they're having difficulty saying what it is they want to say. They're having difficulty with articulation. So this is either that or they're being evasive and manipulative. So he says, well, here's the thing. And so right there, I think, okay, he's going to go on. He's going to talk for a very long time. Once he says that, he's going to start talking for a very long time. It's like here is what he's trying to say, but he's here the whole time, dancing around what he's trying to say. And I think it's because I don't know if he's scared of making that value judgment, if he's uncomfortable making the value judgment, or if it's because he has difficulty expressing this value judgment. But regardless, ENTJs will have a problem with making these value judgments. It is the personal growth page on personality page, which I like to refer to, says that ENTJs oftentimes don't, they can actually get rather petulant when it comes to when somebody forces them to make a value judgment. So it's like telling them to make an imposition. Do you like this person or don't you? And they don't like that. ENTJs are actually very unbiased, naturally. They're naturally unbiased. This is why, and they actually have difficulty being biased sometimes. They have to learn how to make value judgments. So this is why they make good judges, good law enforcement, whatever the case may be. Something that requires that use of that lack of bias. Okay. Now the INTJs, the introverts, they're naturally inside of themselves. FI and NI. Okay. These are their two introverted functions. As introverts, they're going to be using these functions more often than they're going to be using the other functions. So what that means is that they're actually much more subjective than they realize. INTJs are actually very emotional internally. Compared to INFJs, INFJs are very expressive. They're very emotional and they're very expressive. Okay, so that's the difference between INFJ and INTJ. INTJs, very emotional inside, not expressive. They're not expressive. You wouldn't know that they were very emotional by looking at them, at least not all the time. Sometimes you can tell. Sometimes when they're feeling very emotional, it's very easy. You can be like, ooh, he's feeling much more emotional than normal. Sometimes it can be a little hard to take INTJ's emotions seriously. Because they're not so expressive. You don't feel like they'll be expressing their feelings, but you won't be able to take them seriously because they're not radiating that extroverted feeling that you would expect. They're not sort of sending off that energy that an extroverted feeler would send off. So INTJs are very emotional. They're inside themselves quite often. They have these big inner worlds, but they need to start learning how to use their extroverted thinking to evaluate themselves. Am I being objective? Am I saying am I being objective? Am I saying what's true about myself, etc. So this is something to take into consideration. What's the other thing? INTJs like to talk about their interests. Okay, they like to talk about their interests. Topics of conversation have to do with things they know a lot about, as opposed to the extroverts. The extroverts, the ENTJs specifically, ENTJs like to socialize for the sake of being social. They'll actually talk just for the sake of talking. While INTJs really won't do that. INTJs will only talk if there's something constructive to talk about. Okay. So that's another difference. What's another one? Let's see. So the extroverts have that weak introverted feeling, so they have difficulty forming value judgments and getting in touch with themselves and who they are and what they need and stuff like that. Their personal emotional needs. They oftentimes have difficulty getting in touch with this. While ENTJs actually need to practice detaching from themselves. They need to get out there more often, and they need to come out of their shell and engage the world more often. They need to, the extroverts, once again with the energy, they have that extrovert sensing. It's in the tertiary position, which means it's good enough. So they'll know how to deal with competition. It won't, be a problem for them. They will be able to exude pressure on other people to get people to do what they want them to do and stuff like that, while INTJs will not. INTJs have very weak extrovert sensing. That energy is very weak in them, so they won't be able to exude that pressure on other people. And they won't know how to deal with competition as well as an ESFP or an ENTJ would. Okay, an ESFP is going to be able to deal with competition a lot better than an ENTJ, but still, like the ENTJ, they're not really going to have a problem with it. They've got that good enough extrovert sensing. So let's see, one more difference. ENTJs are all or nothing when it comes to like aesthetics and like the little, they might go out in public with a neck beard, or they'll dress rather extravagantly, bright colors and stuff like that. INTJs, they're not really. I mean, they're usually pretty consistent in their dress. The ENTJs are very forgetful around the house. Okay, they will oftentimes organize things so incredibly organized, and this goes here, this goes here, this goes here, and part of the reason this is sort of a compensation for their own complete forgetfulness. Me, I'm a perceiver. If you look at my room, everything's got its place. Okay, I know where everything is. It looks like a complete mess, but you know what? I know where everything is. So that's a little bit of a difference. ENTJs need to organize everything because they don't fully know where everything is. So anyway, those are some differences. INTJs, as far as organization goes with them, I don't know about that. I have no idea. INTJs, as far as organization goes, I've never seen a problem for them. Sometimes they're a little My INTJ mother seems to know where everything of mine is. I'll be like, "Do you know where this is?" She'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's up there in the storage cabinet." I'll be like, "Oh, okay." So, I guess INTJs have it down or something. They seem to be okay with it. So, I've never really encountered sort of forgetfulness with INTJs. So, anyway, that's all I got. I hope that helped. Explain some things. Have a good one.